And I think this is one of the really important things that people miss about AI mastering all the time. And it means they're never going to be able to get a great result. AI is everywhere at the moment, and mastering is no exception. Jonathan Weiner told me that there are over 20 different online services offering professional quality AI mastering for your music. And I recently had a client ask me to master an album for them that they had already done an AI master of, which they thought was okay, but they thought I could probably do better. And I'm very happy to say that they did prefer my master to the AI version. But at the same time, Leeds Conservatoire asked me to do a talk for them about AI mastering. So I made some other alternative versions, AI versions of the songs from this album, and listening to them and comparing them with each other and with my masters of the songs was really interesting. And I thought I would share some of what I heard and my thoughts with you. So the album in question is How We Love the Sea by Nixon Time, aka Tim Bewley. And as I say, I mastered the whole album, but I've just chosen 3 songs here to kind of demonstrate the things I want to show you in this video. So up at the top here, we have the original mixes, no mastering at all. Next, we have the AI versions that Tim came up with. He tried 2 or 3 and settled on BandLab as the one that he thought got the result he was most comfortable with. Then we have 2 examples here. I don't have Logic masters of all of these, but these are using the Logic Pro mastering assistant. And then finally at the bottom here, we have my masters. And I'm going to start by playing you some of this 3rd song here, track 5 from the album, The Girl Without a Clue. And just before I do, the other thing to say is that these versions are all loudness matched. So if we quickly go up and take a look at the levels, you can see that my master has been turned down by 6 dB, 6.3 dB. The Logic master has been reduced by 2.7 dB. The BandLab master has been reduced by 1.8 dB, and the mix obviously is at its original level. So already you have an interesting set of differences. And of course, some AI mastering services let you choose how loud you want things to be. Others make recommendations. I'm going to come back to the topic of loudness later. But to begin with, I'll play some of my master so that you can get a feel for the music, and then I will switch to the others so that you can see what you think, and then I'll give you some comments. So this is my master, to begin with, of The Girl Without a Clue.
A guy with no idea about a girl without a clue. They were hopelessly out of their depth. They saw their lives mapped out into a future bright and blue. Never thought that it could end like this. And it came as no surprise to the guy with no idea. But the girl, she knew what to do. She said,
don't take it all to heart. This time we can grow wings if you learn to fly.
So you can hear there, I went and flicked back to the original mix so you could hear the full contrast between the master and the mix. And with the loudness match like that, you can hear that I was going for a bigger, fuller, richer, warmer sound, more glued, more held together, but still lively and dynamic. Hopefully you like my master. So now we'll compare the original mix with the Logic master and see how that stands up. I'll take it back to the beginning where the drums kick in.
Don't take it all to heart. This time we can grow wings if you learn to fly.
So again, we've got a bigger, warmer, fuller sound from the Logic Master. Less cohesion, I would say, in that. I'm still hearing pieces of the original mix kind of sticking out a little bit more, maybe, than would be my taste. Let me compare the Logic Master with my master.
She knew what to do. She said,
Don't take it all to heart this time. We can grow wings
if you
learn to fly.
You can do what you want. You could just grow wings and believe you can fly.
So for me, the Logic Master is a step in the right direction. I don't think it's gone far enough. I mean, I can imagine people out there feeling that my version was too big and warm. I'm completely open to that, of course. There's a lot of subjectivity involved in these kind of decisions. What I would say is reserve judgment on that until you've heard the other examples that I'm going to give you, and we talk about the overall context of the sound of the album. Now let's take a listen to the BandLab Master.
This time we can grow wings
If you
learn to fly.
Oh yeah. I guess today can run forever. It's best thought of in that way, like sailing down a river. Oh, what a day. Now they've settled on their vision and won't let it drift away. And the girl without a clue would often sing,
Don't take it all to heart
this time we can.
Now, I don't know about you, but I don't really hear a worthwhile improvement in the BandLab Master over the mix. If anything, it sounds a little bit fizzier and a little bit less warm. It sounds overly bright to me. It still sounds really quite uneven. There isn't any kind of extra cohesion in the mix for my taste. And that raises an interesting point in itself, because, of course, this is the master that Tim felt maybe he liked out of the options that he tried. But he recorded and mixed this album and was listening to it on his own monitoring. And this is one of the big challenges, and one of the big things I think maybe that people miss about AI mastering is that you don't get the change of context. You know, whether you feel that my master is actually a little bit too big and warm, or maybe it's perfect and the Logic one still hasn't gone quite far enough, the BandLab version to me hasn't done anything worthwhile. And that may be partly because Tim was listening to it and didn't want something that sounded too dramatically different to what he was used to hearing, to what was familiar. And I think that's a difference that you encounter when you work with a person. He asked my opinion, and I said, in my opinion, this is how this song should sound, based on my experience and my monitoring. And he took some time and thought about it and said, you know what? I like it. I agree. I've tried it on a bunch of different systems. I'm happy. In these two cases, we just have different AI predictions or extrapolations. You know, they've said, oh, what does average music with this kind of tonal distribution sound like? We'll move it closer to that. That's not an emotional musical opinion from a person. It's just an automated widget on a website. So for me, there's a philosophical point to make, but also I think there's a practical challenge in that if you've made the best mix that you can and it sounds a certain way, you are always going to be conservative about any decisions you make yourself in mastering or what you might accept from an AI mastering service if you want to try one. Anyway, let's leave that point for now and let's go and listen to the different masters of song 2, Inside These Walls. I'll just jump in the middle of this somewhere. So, and again, I'll start with my master.
These walls, I'm fine, 'cause I can't look down when I'm this high. I'm this high. Oh, so high. which way does the wind blow? Those clouds above your head, always seeking rainbows inside these walls. I'm fine, 'cause I can't look down.
So again, I'm comparing my master with the original mix there, and I think you'll agree there's a much less dramatic difference between the master and the mix in the case of this song. If anything, I've actually just opened out the high frequencies a little bit and given it a little bit more air and a little bit more space, rather than making it bigger and warmer, as I did with The Girl Without a Clue. Another way of saying that is that I feel that Tim's original mix for this song actually sounds really good, and I didn't feel there was a huge amount that needed to be done, so I used a much more minimalist mastering approach for this song. So now let's take a listen and see how the BandLab master sounds.
Where you can tell all the missionaries from the start, dumb survivors and honest hearts, they'll chain to paradise, out of shape and out of sorts. So which way does the wind blow? Those clouds above your head.
So that also sounds pretty close. And at this point, you might be thinking, well, the AI seems to be doing a pretty good job. You know, we've got this song where not much was needed, and we don't have a Logic example for this, but BandLab didn't change too much. My master didn't change too much. And on The Girl Without a Clue, okay, BandLab didn't really improve that mix, but the Logic master was definitely a step in the right direction, in my opinion. I don't think it went quite far enough, but on this basis, AI is doing pretty well, right? Well, maybe, but I want to remind you about those level adjustments that I mentioned. All of these examples so far, to give a fair comparison between them, have been loudness matched. And of course, that's not the way that the final masters will come out. You can see, I mentioned it before, so my master of The Girl Without a Clue has been turned down by 6.3 dB, but Inside These Walls has only been turned down by 3.8 dB. So if you thought Inside These Walls sounded a little bit loud in comparison to The Girl Without a Clue, I would agree with you. And in the same way, for the BandLab masters, Girl Without a Clue has been pulled down by minus 1.8, and Inside These Walls has actually been pulled down more by minus 3.5. But over here, I have other copies of the songs where the loudness hasn't been changed. So these are the original raw loudnesses. And let's start by comparing my master of Inside These Walls with The Girl Without a Clue and see what we feel about their relative musical balance to each other. Because, well, actually, let me just see whether you agree. With the loudnesses matched, the integrated loudnesses matched, I'm finding Inside These Walls too loud in comparison to The Girl Without a Clue. See if you agree.
I'm fine, 'cause I can't look down. This time we can grow wings inside these walls.
This quiet section here during the intro of Inside These Walls almost sounds louder than the big full-on section with the drums at the end of The Girl Without a Clue. Hopefully, we will not feel the same way about the actual levels I chose for the masters.
And ideas, all the good ones, well, I stole them from you. You can fly, making rainbows inside these walls. You can do what you want, 'cause I can't look down. I'm this. Don't take it on. You can do what you want. You could.
I feel those are much more musically balanced. These adjusted versions are not a complete disaster, and these songs, remember, don't flow into each other. We've got song 2 here and song 5 there. But even so, I think the transition between the two wouldn't work with them balanced like that. Now let's take a listen comparing the BandLab master of Girl Without a Clue versus Inside These Walls.
The chain to paradise. These walls. I'm fine.
I don't know about you, but those don't work for me at all. Even though, when we loudness matched everything and compared the different masters with each other, these three masters and mixes of Inside These Walls were roughly equivalent. You might say that the AI did as good a job as I did with this song. But when you put that in context next to The Girl Without a Clue, it just falls apart. Whereas my masters are reasonably well balanced.
You can do what you want. You could just
BandLab.
I'm fine. I believe you can fly.
Girl Without a Clue sounds thin and weak. And that was a general trend for this album. I realise I've only played you 2 examples so far, but basically there were 2 types of song on How We Love the Sea. The much more stripped back strings, piano and vocals numbers, and the bigger full band arrangements with full drums and quite a different sound. My guess is that they were recorded and mixed in separate sessions, and that's why there's such a big difference between them, and why, in my opinion, you need quite a different treatment, adding all of that extra low end and warmth to the songs that sound more like The Girl Without a Clue, whereas just opening out and adding a little bit more space to Inside These Walls, but also a big adjustment in the relative levels between them. Let's just quickly listen to the relative differences between the mixes.
'Cause I can't look down. Just grow wings. I believe you can fly.
And actually, that's a respect in which the BandLab mastering has made things considerably worse, in my opinion. These 2 versions here, there are EQ differences between them, but loudness-wise, which is one of the most important things when you're listening through to an album as a sequence, they kind of work next to each other. Whereas when I listen to these 2 masters,
Inside these walls, stick some wings on.
they just don't work for me. And you might say, well, we can make a decision about the overall loudness. And I guess that's true. You could listen to the master of The Girl Without a Clue and decide that Inside These Walls was too loud in comparison and just turn it down by ear to balance. But then you have the possibility that there was unwanted dynamics processing on Inside These Walls to lift it up to that level in the first place, and then we're going against it. Or potentially you might say, my master ended up 4 or 5 dB louder than the BandLab master of Girl Without a Clue. Whether or not you think that is appropriate, if you did want your masters to be this loud, and they're not super loud by modern standards, I think the overall loudness of this master is about -11 LUFS, which is pretty conservative by modern standards. You couldn't simply lift The Girl Without a Clue up by another 3 or 4 dB because it would clip. So in a practical sense, it's not easy for you to balance those loudness levels yourself. And anyway, isn't that what we're paying for when we ask for mastering, in inverted commas? Can we even say that this has been mastered? For me, mastering is all about a person reacting emotionally and artistically and musically to the music and bringing out the best. And that's not what's happened here. We've had some kind of automated probability-based averaging machine apply some settings to these pieces of audio and actually end up way off track, in my opinion. And for the final thing that I want to show you in this video, I'm going to go back and use the first song on the album as a comparison, and we're going to go back to using the loudness matched versions of these because it's all about the differences between the mastered and the unmastered versions and the different decisions that I've made in comparison to the AIs. So again, I'll start by playing you some of my master and then I'll switch to the others and listen out for the differences.
We never said before, I kiss you where it hurts. Can you see what I've done? Buried in the sun, just get it done. Moments to lose, best way your time. Chip away the sun, touch the blinded clay. best will come when I can write a million lines, but some of them will.
So once again, my master is bigger and fuller than either of the other two. The Logic Master is closer, but hopefully you can hear another difference there as well, which is that actually I did something slightly cheeky. I worked hard on this song, and Tim told me that it was very difficult for him to mix, and I wasn't able to get the result I wanted until I broke out the Ozone Master Rebalance. And I actually used that to increase the level of bass and drums in the mix. Now, this is not something I would normally do on a master. In fact, this was the first time that I had experimented with it in a professional mastering situation. This is a couple of years ago now, I think. And eventually what I decided was to talk to Tim about this and got him to resupply me a mix with the same changes implemented. So I haven't actually used the Ozone Master Rebalance in this case. I mean, it does a pretty good job, but there are inevitably going to be some artifacts if you go that route. But it enabled me to figure out that what I really wanted to get with this master was actually only achievable via a mix revision. And that is something that an AI simply can't do at this stage. Let me play that to you one more time, and then we'll just talk about the kind of the bigger implications.
Pull it from the dirt and dust. Find what you need to say. It's a killer line we never said before. I kiss you where it hurts. Can you see what I've done? Buried in the sun. Just get it done. Moments to lose, best way your time.
So again, for me, that is a musical decision, opinion that I brought to this project, that my input as a person was able to bring, just like my musical opinion of what the relative balances between these different songs should be was different, and to a lesser extent, what the sound overall should be. AI can't do that. The AI has no idea what other songs are on the album. It has no idea what emotions are intended to be conveyed by these songs. You know, how is an AI going to understand that one loud, raucous number is meant to be aggressive and angry, and another one is meant to be fun and exciting? Or that one quiet, gentle song is meant to be sad and reflective, and another is meant to be bitter and twisted? I'm not saying these things will never come, but I do have my doubts, having experimented with the current incarnation of the text-based AI systems out there. The results, as everyone is saying, are superficially impressive, but when you get into the details, when you get into the nitty-gritty, the nuance, for handcrafted, bespoke, best it can possibly be results, which is what mastering is all about, in my opinion, it's not there, and I'm not convinced that it ever will be there, because at the end of the day, there isn't a person on the other side of the screen. That doesn't mean they're not fun and exciting to play with and can't give you some useful insight and feedback sometimes, or just an extra perspective. But as I mentioned earlier on in the video, the other thing they can't do is remove you from your listening situation and from your preconceptions about the project before you started working on it. Meaning that even if they're making good suggestions, the risk is that you will stay too close to the original master and not get that third-party objectivity that an experienced mastering engineer can give you. So there you go. I hope that was interesting or helpful. There's no question that AI mastering and AI tools in music production are here to stay, and they're actually super useful often. I use some of them myself, as you've seen. There's lots of people who are quite upset about this, quite concerned about it. In terms of mastering specifically, I'm not too worried personally. I'm confident that the human touch is going to continue to be really, really important in mastering when you want the very best results for your music. And really my only concern with the AI mastering services is that they call it mastering. You know, for me, it's not mastering. Mastering is talking to a person, having a conversation, having empathy, giving feedback. That's all part of the process. Mastering is a collaboration. AI can't do that, and I don't expect that it will be able to do it anytime soon. So for me to call those online services mastering is a little bit misleading, if I'm honest. But let me know what you think. Do you have an AI mastering service that you've used that has had great results for you? Which ones do you like? Which ones do you think are good or bad? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, I think you will also love a free PDF I've put together. It's called the Home Mastering Guide, and it covers what I consider to be the 6 essential steps to releasing your music with complete confidence. As I say, it's just a simple PDF, it's absolutely free, and you can get your copy at homemasteringguide.com. My name is Ian Shepherd. Thanks for listening.